welcome to another episode of A Seat at the Table, hosted by yours truly, Karl Singleton. Of course, all of our guests are special, but I always have to make a plug when this young man is in town. He's one of our own, Trent Gray Jr., but more than that, he is now Mr. Dr. Trent Gray Jr., that I'm proud to introduce. As I said, historically, you know how I feel about you in terms of you being an inspiration to the city, to the community. I've said this to one other young man in particular, and that's former Councilman, Cornelius Johnson. Always went, the SciTech High grad, Harrisburg High SciTech campus grad, always saying, you all have gone off, explored, but just always come back. Mm-hmm. And I really appreciate that. We appreciate that whenever there's opportunities to highlight you all in particular and others, some of your peers. We here at A Seat at the Table, Music Man Multimedia Studios overall want to do that. And so we're going to have an organic conversation talking about, of course, family, talking about friends, talking about how you matriculated to the position where you are now and what that means to you, why you chose that path, and how you intend to give back and encourage and inspire others to not only follow your footsteps, but exceed those things that you've done. Absolutely. So without any further ado, just talk to us.
Yo, man, listen, I'm excited about it. Let's do it. So like you said, man, my name is Trent Gray Jr. It always still make me blush when, people call me a doctor. It still hasn't quite set in yet. But I'm a pharmacist now by trade. I'm a pharmacy resident currently at Wellspan Hospital in York, Pennsylvania. I'm from right here. I grew up uptown for the most part. I went to SciTech High School. After that, I went off to Temple University, played a little bit of football there. I fell in love with Philly. I did. I learned a lot about community, what it means to really want to dive into a community and give back to a community in need. I started here, however, as I grew up, in that type of environment in Philly, I felt like, it was so many opportunities to give back in those types of environments, especially being a Temple student. They want their students to go off into the community and do a lot of volunteering and community service. And I found value in that. So I think for me, it pushed me forward to want to be better for the people who I was serving. Because there was a lot of young African-American men. I don't know if you guys heard of Youth Build, is where I started at up in Philly, which was dope. For me, it was a lot of young African-American men. Who are at risk of dropping out of school or just kind of on the track to get a GED. So for me, I felt like I took extra responsibility to lead by example, not only to tell you what I've done, but just lead by example. So I remember, man, I'll be completely transparent, which I remember after I stopped playing football at Temple after my second year, and it was because I was failing some courses. Calculus 2, man, I'll never forget about it, man. I failed it twice. And this is on a path to a very rigorous career, one in which you need to have these core background courses in order to matriculate through the program. And I had failed the class twice. I had to sit down, do some soul searching, do some self-reflection, and I wrote a letter to the dean because at the time we had a 2-course policy. You only could take a class twice if you failed it.
Oh wow.
Yeah. After that, third strike, you're gone. You can't take it anymore. Yeah. So I had to write a letter, man, to this guy. Older Russian guy who ran our math department, very strict folks, but for good reason. I wrote a letter, I wrote out an action plan, told him exactly what I would do, how I would approach it. And they granted me the opportunity to take that class for a third time. And boy, if I ain't pass it, I got my B+. And after that, I realized that adversity, it wasn't going to stand in my way. I had to become a resilient person because, man, it was nights where I cried taking that class, man, seriously. I had times where I had to, call up my support system because I didn't think I was going to make it through there. But once I took it over the summer, I was engaged every day and I passed it. And at that point, I realized, man, I was going to go get, everything that I dreamed for. So for me, I set out on a career of pharmacy back when I was in high school, just a career day kind of thing, something that I got interested in. But it wasn't until, again, I got to college and I got into kind of my higher level kind of degrees where I understood that people who look like us, we are the most over-medicated group of people in America, African-American people. However, we don't understand how to take our medications. We kind of feel like we do what we want when we want because we feel our own bodies, and I understand that. You know you better than anybody else.
Right.
However, these drugs have been studied extensively. Unfortunately, not in populations of people that look like us.
Right.
So that's what I'm advocating for the most part. So for me, it's just like, okay, if I can be a beacon of information for those people who look like us, come down, sit in your grandmom's living room and really talk to her about what these things are doing to her body. What happens if she don't take it, and just be personable, sit down and be Trent. I'm nobody else. I just went off and got an education to help people. So I felt value in that. To be able to take this high complex field of medicine and water it down and try and make it digestible for the average lay person. And I almost said, dumb it down because people think that's what I'm doing, but it's not. It really is repackaging a complex, area of work and putting it in a way that people can digest it because everybody can't, and it is a lot. And I felt like, we're at a disadvantage coming from these types of communities because they don't teach us about it.
And that's the trust piece. Mm-hmm. And so a lot of, and I'll interject at that point because it's not only imperative that we as black people as a whole, but in particular, I'm going to highlight black males, get involved in whether that's the education realm and or the medical field, because we are impacted by those communities the most in terms of social determinants of health overall. And studies or whatever have shown that people are more inclined to be responsive to people that they can relate to. And that first relatable image is physical. And so a black male, it may be more trusting because I can assume with some certainty, we'll say, that you may have experienced the same experiences that I've had here in America. And whether that is, financial, whether it is justice-based, whether it is education, whatever it is, there's some type of commonality that I think will bring us closer together. And I say all that to say, what an important position it is to be in, to be able to learn about a system, in particularly pharmaceutical, that, to your point, impacts us almost at every turn, us as black people. But that's also something that's one of the furthest things away from our knowledge base in terms of understanding what goes into it. We're receiving. It's not mutually beneficial or reciprocated, especially when the person on the other side oftentimes don't look like us. So what does that mean to you to have that trusted value on site most times? Not with every patient, but most times. I know if you walk into a room, if I'm in a room with my son or my kids or family members, as a black man, I'm happy to see you. Yeah. I am.
No, man, listen, I always live by the highest honor that a human can give you is to ask for your help and really trust you enough that you're going to give them the right response that they're looking for, a trusted response. So I come in with that understanding that if this person came here today, this person sat down in front of me and expressed their concerns and they really want my help, I take it serious. Especially when those people look like us, because I did my last set of clinical rotations at Duke University, a major, prestigious institution in the South. However, historically, this is a very, white male dominated type of hospital system,
right?
In which a lot of African Americans are treated, but treated poorly. Right. If you ever read Damian Tweedy's book, it's called Black Man in a White Coat. He chronicles his time there as a physician in the early 60s. At a time, obviously, we were going through the civil rights era, but this is a very smart brother, and he talks about that responsibility and that honor that people, that was bestowed upon him as a physician. And for me, I take it personally, and I really do understand that when I see patients, their faces light up, and it means the world to me, man. When I come, I'm serious, come whipping around those corners in your white coat, and you're on a team full of people who don't look like you. Right. It gives a sense of security, comfortability, and a level of openness that they can actually open up and talk to me about some of the things that they might not be able to talk to some of the other physicians and providers about. And to me, again, I feel a responsibility to protect that as well. I don't want people to, see me and just say, oh, he's not really know what he's doing. So I really do take it serious when I come into these rooms, and I want to come with a plan. And I wanted them to be a part of that plan. I'm not overbearing as a pharmacist or as a person of medicine. I'm not a person that's going to talk at my patients. I feel like, this is your journey. This is your, health journey. And I'm here just as a beacon of information that I've learned to try and help you be the best that you can be. So again, I really do hold true to, again, it's an honor for people to look at me and give me that trust.
So on that, we'll take our commercial break. So again, we are back. So thanks for staying with us. To our viewers, we are here with Dr. Trent Gray Jr., Harrisburg's own, and we are sharing him with the world globally. This is his first, but definitely not the last time here. And you were talking before we went to commercial about the importance of not operating like a surgeon, but
No.
but in your capacity, showing that integrity and character and fidelity as you move in your professional life. Continue along that path. What about when you encounter individuals who don't accept you? Let's talk about that side.
Man.
When individuals don't accept you and they want the real doctor to come in, or so to speak.
Yeah, man, I'll be honest and I'll be blunt, man. It's a slap in the face. However, I'm a person who feeds off of the negative energy. And I understand that I start, at -1 when I start this race. You understand that? So I'll give you a time in particular, man. I was doing a clinical rotation at Harris Teeter, just a normal, pharmacy, technician type of role, but, learning to be a pharmacist. Flu season. We give out a lot of flu shots. And as a black man kind of doing this work, I enjoy it, especially giving them to people who look like us, because we're the ones who usually, battle with vaccine hesitancy. We're not
touch on that.
Yeah.
We're gonna go down that road.
So especially, and again, this is just a flu shot.
Yeah,
this isn't
right.
even getting into the COVID-19 vaccines or anything like that. I had a patient, older white patient. Again, I'm in school in the rural South, Bowie's Creek, North Carolina, in the middle of nowhere.
Never even heard of it, but shout out to Bowie's Creek,
Oh,
North Carolina. I guess.
Shouts out to the creek, man.
Letting Trent get back to us. Thank you.
Yeah. So what happened was, I was ringing the older lady up, and they asked, hey, can I get a flu shot as well as my pneumonia vaccine, pneumonia vaccine. So the tech, she's like, oh well, Trent can give it to you, and she points to me, and this lady's face drops, and she's, I cannot make this up, man. She said, I don't want him giving me my vaccine. There's no way a person who looks like him made it this far.
You mean because of your height? You were
Absolutely.
too tall.
No,
you were too tall.
No, it was my hair, of course.
Oh, okay.
No. Man, but
Wow.
I was blown away.
What year was that?
This was this past year. This
I
was
just want to make it
listen. This
so we
was in
understand.
October. This is 2020 in October. I was floored by her, her ignorance. That we're in 2021 and you felt as though I couldn't accomplish this goal. However, I'm a professional person. I'm always kind of stick to my guns in terms of who I am as a professional, especially as a medical provider. You have to be able to stay calm. People get upset about things. You've got to be able to diffuse any type of situation. So, obviously, man, I meet everybody with a smile. It's like, ma'am, I'm highly qualified to do this job. It's just a vaccine. I'm not doing open heart surgery here. So she had a rapport with the actual pharmacist on staff.
Okay.
And she pulls her over to the side, and man, this lady, she takes up for me. Sarah Wojak. Shouts out to you, Dr. Wojak. She's like, this is probably one of the best student pharmacists I've ever had in my 16-year career at this store. Wow. And if I could recommend anybody giving you a shot outside of me, it would be him. And in that moment, I seen two sides of what America's becoming. The dinosaurs are phasing out, and we've got a younger population of people who are in these roles that respect what we're doing as black people. So, I took that moment and I felt that. I gave my chance, myself a chance to self-reflect and feel how I felt when she told me, I don't want him giving me that shot. I felt it. I allowed myself to have that moment. But I brought it back, and I was greeted with an internal smile and a warmth from her, another person taking up for me in this role, in this medical role that I know I'm highly qualified to do. All in all, speed the story up, I didn't give this young lady a shot. However, I took that. And understood that I'm going to be met with skepticism, but these are the reasons why I work so hard. Right. Because I'm going to have to, I'm going to be met with skepticism. I'm going to be met with, red flags. I'm going to be met with raised eyebrows. So for me, I have to solidify everything that I know and everything that I do for people to understand that, hey, this guy is amazing. He does what he's supposed to do. and he's going to greet me with the utmost professionalism and great service.
That is spot on, and you know, if it was easy, everyone would be doing it. It's not. That's why some of you are the chosen. I will say that. So let's transition a bit in terms of imparting your studies, your wisdom, your knowledge with peers, with family. How does that feel coming back? Not that you've ever really left family or your peers, so we were not going to put that out there. You've always remained that close knit. When you talk about the 2 classes that you persevered through, that was with faith and courage and family. Quite frankly, so shout out, of course, to your family unit. Talk a bit about family, what family means to you, and that piece.
Man, first and foremost, to any young person, anybody who's going to school or any type of higher educational journey, get you a support system that believes in you and that you can fall on, because it's a roller coaster. It's going to go up, it's going to go down, man. It gets crazy, and at times it feels like you can do something else and be just as happy. However, when you set that goal and you're rooted in that goal and you reroot yourself in your why and why it is that you're essentially defining your purpose. Once you understand that purpose, you got to continuously reroot yourself in that purpose. So for me, it was my family and my community. So just like I kind of mentioned before, seeing the value and the utility of having an African-American male, a young male, to be able to sit in some of these rooms to provide medical information and knowledge, I found, again, value in that. So when I'm struggling in my coursework, or I'm struggling to just find the motivation to study, I think about Miss Jones. I think about, my grandmom. I think about, people like Karl. It's like, these are the people when they get older, they're going to need, a person that they can really trust and come to without a biased type of, perspective on what it is that they're telling me. For instance, I had a patient, she avid, smoker of marijuana. And I'm not sure if you know if you're on warfarin or Coumadin, that affects that drug. And she told me, she said, "Listen, doc," and I love when they call me. It's kind of cool. But she goes, "Listen, doc, I'm not going to stop smoking." And as a medical kind of provider, what do I do with that? I have to take that information and use it. She just told me, I'm not going to stop that.
Right.
Now, obviously, we got to go, do smoking cessation. You probably should. But this is her telling me. She's an older woman. And I said, "Hey, listen, how can I help you? Right. Still be compliant to your medication and still have the lifestyle that you're gonna live." Right. Because at the end of the day, if I come and force my own opinion and my agenda on her, it's gonna be met with resistance. So again, man, it's these little types of things that I see my community when I'm struggling, or when I'm met with that kind of adversity. So for me, I think my family has played a role that is second to none. It's frustrating sometimes. I'll be honest, man, and they know this. We talk about this, and that's why I feel comfortable about it. When you leave kind of the small circle that you grew up in, and you start to see different parts of the world, see how other people live, see different communities and how other families operate, you start to want that. It's like, wait a minute, my family was already great, but if I can bring them along, at light speed to make us even, man. So sometimes it's frustrating because I want them to get the message just like I got the message, and I always forget that it takes patience. Criticism without the type of compassion is brutality on someone's life. You can really hurt a person.
Facts.
You can hurt a person if you don't really meet that criticism with the type of compassion and empathy that they deserve. So I find myself biting my tongue sometimes, or trying to find a way to explain to my family and my close friends and peers that when I see something in them, I want to just jump in. It's like, yo, we got to do this so that we can move forward. Right. And I've I always try to remind yourself, Trent, you didn't get it on the first time. You didn't get it on the second time. You didn't get it on the third time. It's a journey. Everybody's journey is different. But how can I facilitate that journey for my family and my closest friends? And obviously leading and living by example. Right. I try my best. Obviously I fall short of that daily. However, I understand that the higher power that I believe in, that I wake up every morning, I get another shot at it.
That's right.
So again, man, keep my family close, keep my support system close, and always reroute yourself in why it is that you're doing what you're doing.
And I always look at, of course, your grandmother, your mother, your sisters, your brother.
Yeah.
When I look at them, it's like, hey, we in the community see them. It's one of those things like, when's Trent coming? When's Trent done? When's Trent? And it's a lot of times over these years, you've been in and out.
Yeah, it's tough.
But I'm one of the fortunate ones aside of his immediate family. I always get the call, and
Absolutely.
I respect that.
Absolutely.
Always got love, and I'm just excited. You don't want you blushing. You're a little lighter than me, but I'm blushing too.
Come on, I
you
just
know
came
what I
back
mean?
from Jamaica, man.
Yeah. But no, I mean, what do you say to your younger brother who is out there in terms of as a young man growing up in this world? What do you say to a younger Trent who is in 7th and 8th grade, 11th grade, that may not have the grades, but may have the thought of wanting to go down this path, a similar path that you've taken of success? And we're defining success in terms of giving back to a community that we, including myself, have taken so much from. What do you say to those individuals out there to encourage them, but while holding them accountable at the same time, to stay your course, clearly understand with everything going on around you, and it's not easy, whether it's the gunshots, whether it's the loss of family members or friends, whether it is, disappointments from family members or associates. What do you say to those young people out there, or peers that are trying day by day? You alluded to it. You have another day that the Creator has given you through faith and courage to open up your eyes again, be thankful, and then what? What do you do?
Man, look, so, you brought him up, man. I've got to shout out my little brother. Amari, look, shout you out, man. I'll get into that, I promise, man. My little brother started off high school with probably like a 1.9 GPA. And it crushed me to my core. It was just like, what? Come on, man. Like, this is, simple stuff, but I realized everybody's life is different. Everybody's journey is different. And instead of, again, projecting my own kind of, fears and thought process on him, I had to understand where he was and why he was there. Luckily, he just this year, he just graduated from SciTech High, Harrisburg SciTech campus, on the honor roll, which, again, turned over a new leaf because I met him where he was. So, again, I'll drive home. Oh, he's also going to Westchester this year. He's Westchester Rams, man.
We won't hold that against him. Clarion's out there. We won't hold that against him. But, all right, go Westchester. You got a good one. You got a great one.
Super proud of him. So, yeah, Westchester, look out.
And if they pay, if he's on scholarship, shout out to Westchester.
But to get back to your question explicitly, man, it's find a goal that you believe in. It's easy to just pick a goal, but if you don't have no purpose within that goal, it's easy to fall off that horse. But you've got to be able to root yourself in a goal that you genuinely believe in, because you're going to have naysayers, you're going to have ups, you're going to have downs, and then you've got to be able to navigate all of those things with that purpose. And rappers probably said the most. I came from nothing. Like, I didn't have anything. People were shunning me. People didn't really believe in what I was doing, but they continued to persevere. They continued. I'm talking about, like, my man Juicy J said the best. He slept in his car for 6 months. Slept in his car. Yeah. So when nobody else believed in him. So
shout out to the younger people. I have no clue who Juicy J is, but okay,
Juicy
here's my
J,
great.
your age, man. Okay. He's still doing it.
And he's still doing it?
Still doing it. But what I would say.
Teddy Pendergrass.
Come on, man. I'm old school. I love all that. Now, I would definitely say, though, again, find you a goal or a dream that you firmly believe in, that you can accomplish.
Right.
If you think that you can do it, you can.
Right.
Now, what the difference is, in my opinion, between those who actually kind of accomplish those dreams and those who don't is the resources that are available to us. So that's where it comes back to giving back to these communities, because now that I've gone through this process, I can start to help people at least go through the process or connect them to people who have gone through the process that's similar to one that they want to go through.
Right.
So, A, find yourself a goal that you believe in. 2, connect yourself with people. Get yourself a mentor. Connect yourself with people who are either like-minded or have gone down a similar journey, or can connect you with certain resources that other people in your cohort might not have. Right. I'll be honest, man. I had friends. Well, I have a lot of friends here. We were on the same path, but I just got blessed with a certain set of resources that they might not have had. It didn't make me any better than them. It didn't make me any smarter than them. Right. It was just simply a set of resources that they didn't have access to.
Right.
So for me, kind of coming up as a young African-American man, all I'm trying to do is provide resources. Because as you leave this place, you see the amount of resources that are there for other people.
Right.
Even other black communities in the South take care of each other.
Right.
So when I come back here and I don't see that, it's like, oh wow, how do I start to instill that here? And I'm not saying start because I see that you guys have been doing a heck of a job here. But it's like, how do we continue that?
But it's older people like myself. I'm counting myself in that group. I'm knocking on 50. My role, as I see it at this stage in my life, is to make sure, and I've always said this to you and others, is to make sure that those steep hills aren't as steep anymore. Those rough paths are smoothed out more. Not saying it's perfect, but at least I'm able to say, don't go that route, go this route. Or when you go this route, be aware of X, Y, Z. And that's my role. I don't need to be the leader. People my age don't need to lead it. We need people like you all who have gone off, who have decided to come back with fidelity, with integrity, with character, empathy and compassion, things that you've spoken of, and to say, hey, not only, and I used to always say about the baton and handing off the baton, but I'll back up off of that after listening to Joe Madison, the Black Eagle. I'm a huge fan of Joe Madison, the Black Eagle. Shout out Sirius Exit Radio, Channel 126, Urban View.
Hey,
Joe Madison, Black Eagle,
good.
6 to 10
stuff.
every morning. You know, when he says, I'm not passing my baton. I'm not passing my torch. My role is to light your torch. And now we both are well lit, walking the path. And I talked, and I thought about that. Eventually, we'll have enough torches lit that the lights will go on for all of us. And if nothing else, when you're prepared and ready, you'll see the path to follow because it'll be well lit.
Absolutely.
And so I say that to say, in the current role and capacity that I serve in this community, in this region, throughout the state, is to find young people like yourselves or the younger generations. You know, I'm talking, 40 and under, to quite frankly say, here are accomplishments that my age group, have been successful in. Here's some of the areas where we've struggled, but we really believe that because we struggle in these areas, it's now prime for the picking now for you all to take off with. And more so, we may have been successful in our own rights, whatever that path was, but you all have a whole different skill set to enhance that which we thought was examples of success. So, yeah.
Man, for me, I always felt like coming from here, I had an unfair advantage coming from a place like this.
Yeah.
Like, people's like,
What do you mean by that? Yeah.
It's like, yo, where you from? Now, I'm from Harrisburg. They're like, what? It's like out by the cows and all that, right? I'm like, yeah, until you go. But what I learned from here is, man, how, again, you can see somebody get shot right up the block and then put on a, stone face and still have to go to school, still have to go to work. And it teaches you how to almost compartmentalize to a point where it's like, yo, nothing is going to stop me from moving forward.
Right.
And Harrisburg's small, but it's a lot that goes on here, man. It's a lot. Yeah. And for me, I seen so much here that it was like, okay, I learned from the corner boys. I learned from the school guys. I learned from people who was doing positive, negative. But I took all that and I used that when I left here. So it was like, and I always looked at it like, man, I hated where I came from growing up because I always wanted something nicer. I always wanted the pool in the backyard. I always wanted a nice neighborhood. And it's like, yo, you know what? I needed that. I needed to see that so that, it fueled my, my fire and my passion and that academic fervor to move forward, in the field that I wanted to go into.
Shout outs to humble beginnings.
Yeah, I'm telling you, man, listen, 716, look, it's there. I got it there. Because it does mean a lot to me, man. It really does, because I realized that without this type of upbringing, I don't know who I would have been. So I do credit a lot of the kind of just resilience and, again, just kind of my way of facing adversity to this city.
Right.
And I was watching the draft and I seen Micah get drafted, man.
Hey.
First thing he did, what did he do? He threw up this city.
Yeah.
And it's because it has a way of molding us to be what we are once we leave this small kind of town. So, man, I encourage people, embrace this city. This city's a lot. I know we all kind of, we talk our stuff about it here and there because it's not enough to do. It's not enough positivity.
We're the only ones allowed to talk about it, though.
Yeah, but that's it. Yeah, once you go out of here, love this place, man, because, again, it'll equip you with skills that you don't even know that you had until you're faced with some adversity, and then it calls for you to be resilient. So again, shouts out to the city, and I hope and pray that a lot of you guys watching embrace what we see every day here, understanding that it's growing us, it's molding us, and it's making us into better humans if we choose to look at it that way. Mindset is everything.
There you go. And so as we wind down, you heard it here first. Not only do we have the academic and athletic side in the #1 draft pick in Micah Parsons.
Shouts out to Micah, man.
Shouts out to Micah. But we have our #1 draft pick, pharmaceutical draft pick, pharmacist in Dr. Trent Gray Jr. Can't thank you enough for joining us here. Of course, the door is always open. Shout outs, as we always do, to our control room, the Lewis brothers, here at Music Man Multimedia Studios, and of course, Chad Scott. We'll see you in the next episode. Again, thank you very much, Dr. Trent Gray Jr.
Absolutely. Man, listen, I got one more thing for anybody who's out there who wants to get involved with a project, man. I'm looking for partners to start a healthcare exposure type of program, pipeline, if you will, to take some of these young African-American males and females who are interested, even kind of interested in science, to try and get them exposed to these careers in science, technology, engineering, and math, because we're brilliant. However, we don't have a seat at the table in these types of arenas. So if we start to mold our young kids early, before they even get to middle school, and get them interested in these types of careers, I really genuinely believe that we can change the world. So I would love to start a pipeline program in Harrisburg that tries to, again, expose our young youth to these types of careers, man. And I'm looking for partners to be able to do that. And I want to start at the hospital that I'm at. Wellspan Hospital has a great amount of money. And I would hope that we can start taking, 2-3 students per semester just to expose them to this work life that, is a great one. So if there's anybody out there who's interested, man, please get with me, contact me. I'll leave my information for Karl, man.
Give it.
No, listen, well, got emails.
All right, we'll do. We'll do it. I'll send it. Yeah, we'll set it up. We'll run it across screen and everything. So again, you heard it here, Dr. Trent Gray Jr. We'll see you in the next episode of A Seat at the Table, hosted by yours truly, Karl Singleton. Hello, and welcome to another episode of A Seat at the Table, hosted by yours truly, Karl Singleton, here at Music Man Multimedia Studios. A Seat at the Table is focused on ensuring that our viewers and listeners are engaged with decision makers and or with those with connections to decision makers, thus ensuring that a community's needs are met with those resources that are available out there that they may not be aware of. So my role at this point is to make sure that those individuals with access to resources and access to those people with the resources are presented here at A Seat at the Table. With that being said, we are joined by, and I still call her Mayor Bracey, former mayor of the city of York, history-making mayor of the city of York, Pennsylvania, who is currently serving the role of executive director for the Governor's Center for Local Government Services. So without any further ado, our forever mayor, Kim Bracey, is joining us here in the program.
Hello, Karl, and all of you. It's always nice to see you and sit down and talk. I'm looking forward to our conversation and being able to share some information with your audience.
Definitely. So first, if we can just start off, then we won't speak specifically. And,
sure.
As we say here, our conversations are organic.
Yeah.
So we won't necessarily need to speak specifically like as if you're in a role, your governmental role now.
Okay.
We just want to talk in terms of course, yes, what it is that you do and what that the center offers. For a lot of our viewers, they may not be aware. And even for me, I'm not aware of everything that goes on in there. And so we can have that surface level and or deep level conversation. But when we start to get into our additional talks,
you and me,
you are speaking in terms of us.
Yeah. Okay.
Not necessarily in your role
Gotcha.
at all of the executive director. So with that being said, let's just start off with get that out of the way.
You guys are editing stuff. Okay.
Yes, exactly.
Works.
So yeah.
So thank you again for having me. The things that we do at the Center for Local Government Services is there to impact and be of assistance to every municipality in Pennsylvania. from your third-class cities to your second-class townships to your boroughs, everything. And we do all things local government, everything from assisting with tax filings, audits that are required, as well as regionalization studies for police and fire and emergency services. We provide a wealth of knowledge as well as services around those areas. So what do I mean? If there are several municipalities in Dauphin County here, if everybody wants to come together and start up their own police department, we are available to do a study to see how that could work. What cogs in the wheel would be needed, who might be pulling more of their share than others or something like that. So we can provide consulting services to help municipalities or counties, as the example I use, look at how to really regionalize and how to make all of those services work so that you, perhaps in the city of Harrisburg, can be assured that you're going to receive the services that you need, much like folks maybe in Des Moines.
So with that, is that applicable to school districts as well?
We do not touch school
See,
districts.
I wonder why. And the reason why, as an educator, the reason why I asked that
Yeah.
question is because when we look at the successful in terms of graduation rates, in terms
Yes.
of daily average attendance, average daily attendance, et cetera, when you look at the nationwide disaggregation of top-tiered school districts, you know they're countywide.
Yep.
And I would say the
And it
top
makes sense.
10% of the school districts are countywide.
Yeah. It
Most
makes-
of the top 10% school districts in the nation are county based because it's the sharing of resources, all that stuff.
Indeed.
And so
I mean, where I'm out of, as you know, of wonderful York County, 17 school districts within that
Right.
district, within that county. And, if you had 450,000 people,
right,
could we not have one superintendent
Exactly.
taking care of those efforts? So, but thankfully, that's not my lane.
I got you. And we won't have to.
I
we
have
won't go
5
down there.
other lanes.
Okay, let's talk about those lanes then. Okay, we'll come back to that because my thoughts are if we can regionalize police, regionalize fire, and it's cost cutting, and it's this, that, and the other, and it's good for the taxpayers. Newsflash: education should be on the table
Yeah.
as well. But I'm saying this. That's where I believe fully that the racial inequities really come into play in terms of really keeping schools segregated. But I digress. Hey, could y'all pull that door shut?
That is for sure. But to your point, where we see distressed municipalities, we usually see distressed school
Exactly, and
districts.
that's where I was going with
The same tax base, the same taxing on the backs of the poorest of the poor exists. And you can only get so much out of that turnip, right?
Right.
And improving your municipality, improving your school district, it's time to really look at other models that work
Right.
nationally, perhaps,
Right.
and making that ours because, we have a lot of
a
failing
funding
school
thing,
districts,
right.
and it's not fair.
Right.
It's not fair to our kids.
And we'll get off of that because it
Okay.
wouldn't be fair to you because that is not one of your lanes in terms of the 5, and I respect that. But you are a mother. You are.
And I worked very
and you-
closely with the school district of the
Right.
city of York when it went into distress status, and
that's why I was bringing that
indeed.
up.
So
that you see the correlation, but we're not going to delve down into
No.
that piece. Let's talk about.
we deal with. I talked about everything local government, but we really work with those municipalities that are financially distressed. Right now, there's 15 of them, which isn't bad, but more than that, obviously are having a hard time getting by, making their minimum municipal pension obligation, paying their bills, keeping the lights on, fixing potholes. I mean, just the basic things are becoming tougher and tougher. So our services are there to help those that are distressed, those municipalities that are in Act 47 that we know cannot pay their bills. But we also offer services to help those prevent them from getting into that status. We have a program, Strategic Financial Management Program, and it really gives people the extra tools that they need to start looking at their financial forecast. We can do everything from a 5-year forecast to updating some infrastructure or software hardware that might be needed just to run the daily bills, if you will. So
No, that is very important, especially dealing with. And I know when I was in city government in Harrisburg, we were on a mainframe that was outdated. We were so there was the need for infrastructure upgrades. When we talk about infrastructure, a lot of times we think about simply roads and bridges. I'm very impressed and pleased with the current Biden-Harris administration, who is clearly defining infrastructure in a forward-thinking way.
Yes.
With regards to broadband, with regards to ensuring that the technical assistance portion is up and things like that. So what we'll do now is we'll take a commercial break. And on the other side of this, we'll continue our conversation with regards to resources that are available from this particular, in particular, the Governor's Center for Local Government Services and other resources that are being made available from a federal level. We'll see you on the other side of this commercial. Thank you for joining us here at A Seat at the Table. And we are back, so thank you for staying with us. As before the commercial break, we were talking specifically about federal dollars that are coming in, or dollars and resources that are made available from the state level to assist municipalities to ensure we won't fall into municipalities. So more of a proactive measures that are being used. And so one of the things I was highlighting before we went to break was what I believe is nonpartisan. Quite frankly, it just so happens to be led by the Biden-Harris team in terms of how they're defining infrastructure. But it is to go into communities nationwide to ensure equity is the way that I look at it. So if you can talk a little bit about that.
Wow. And that's so huge. I mean, as we were talking about, it's an opportunity that we shouldn't sleep on, number one, and realize that this isn't going to come around too many more times. If nothing else, the pandemic showed us, at least from my chair, the municipalities or the communities in Pennsylvania even that were not ready to be isolated.
Right.
Broadband is huge. Being able to communicate with folks. I mean, there's places I've traveled that I lost cell phone coverage, and not just for a block. I mean, I'm like, okay, Mom, I'm good, but I'm out here.
Right.
So,
unfamiliar terrain.
Yes. So we want to make sure people lose the whole partisanship thing, and let's fix what we can right now. Take advantage of these opportunities. Broadband is huge in the state of Pennsylvania. It's huge in so many municipalities, as I just spoke about. So federal dollars are going to be there for a little while to assist with these efforts. Real quick, if I can go back to what we do, we have a few dollars, not a huge budget, but it is monies that can be used proactively, again, to prevent municipalities from filing bankrupt or going into a distressed status. The city of York, for example, used this program, the pre-Act 47 program, if you will. At that time, it was called the Early Intervention. So many people might know it as EIP. We changed the name to give it a more proactive focus, a strategic financial management program. Same thing. But we used that program 3-4 times, if you will, to stay out of Act 47, to continue to shape things that we just didn't have the resources to do, update our software and hardware systems, and really keep the city on a good financial path for as long as we could. Because until we change some real laws and legislation,
You're talking on the state level.
At the state level, people are going to, municipalities are going to have these issues, but we are there to try to be proactive. So fast forward to right now with the federal dollars that are coming into our municipalities. Yes, COVID-related expenses is what we need to be thinking about, but every aspect of life as we knew it was impacted by COVID. There are ways to make sure you qualify for these dollars and use them to help get things back in order and springboard yourself going forward. So that's our hope.
One of the things that, and we talk like we're here in this space because two of our diversity coalition members were forward thinking in a way where their businesses were directly impacted
Yeah.
A lot of what they did was bringing people together. However, they were not afforded that opportunity for at least 15 months.
Okay.
And so knowing that, they decided to create a space where not only they could network and fund and found another business venture, but allow that business venture to be fruitful to others.
Okay.
And so this space is Music Man Multimedia Studios is an opportunity for us to use as a place where we can bring in resources.
That's awesome.
Which is Black owned and controlled.
Yes.
And it is one that is welcoming to an alternative story that is generally than what is generally given about minority businesses and in particular Black businesses, and to make sure that when resources are made available, we have a real megaphone and microphone to announce those resources, in a strategic way. And so, yes.
You also have the historical knowledge on the institutional wisdom to lead these efforts as well, too. So folks should be looking to the coalition for making those dollars most impactful throughout the state, if you will, but definitely among your members. And again, to your members and others throughout, dollars are available. Go to your municipal leaders, go to your school board directors, go to folks about those dollars and how your program, your business, your initiative can be supported because of the impact COVID had on it.
Right. And I think, especially dealing here, and I'm going to speak specifically to Dauphin County for selfishly.
I'll continue to talk York.
Yeah. Since we're speaking here, it is, the dollars that are at the county level, the dollars that are at the city level in terms of city government, and then at the school district. So there's 3 tiers of dollars where we're seriously encouraging and preparing our members and participants, because if someone comes to us that's a minority business and they're not a member, we don't turn them away.
That's
As
true.
a coalition, we still assist them. And that is a statewide effort.
That's right.
It's not just Harrisburg or Dauphin County. Whether you're in Erie or whether you're in Pittsburgh, you're in Philadelphia, Lehigh Valley, wherever you are, York, Carlisle, we're here to assist. And one of the things that we continuously do is make sure that we have access to resources, meaning banks. These lending institutions that have historically not been as welcoming and open.
Right.
We have formulated relationships to the Pennsylvania Bankers Association and a lot of their members, in particular Mid-Penn Bank, Orrstown, Fulton Bank, down through York, especially. We made the contact down through there, and Members First and BB&T, now Truist. And so there are individuals that are there in those positions that are very much aware of the body of work that the coalition is doing, and now being able to tap into local municipal resources and then powering that up, as we say, to the state level where there's resources available as well in terms of our House reps or senators, at which programming can be further supported. So I don't know if you have,
a ton of things to respond to in that, but I know you in the coalition, but definitely you have probably explored or at least thought about Black-owned banking. It is taking off in the Philadelphia region, and right now with COVID, people were thinking the otherwise or whatever. We can do that. We can do that in Central Pennsylvania. We can start our own, and almost everything else we need to do it in financial institutions. Perhaps it's a credit union, but put our dollars back in our community in ways that impact our community. So the opportunities are there, and they're there now. For about 4 years, I guess.
Well, we'll say, and we won't wait for 4 years to get started.
And we shouldn't wait for 4 years to get started. We talked about a couple programs we were familiar with President Obama's administration. So we need to make sure we move this effort forward in a positive way that is beneficial to us this time and now.
So the time, there's no better time than the present.
No better time
as
than
we
the
say.
present.
If not now, when? If not us, then it'll be never.
That's right.
So talk a little bit about where you see your efforts. If you could work your way out of this job, what would be some of your successful benchmarks? In terms of your role now, working your way out of this job.
State government is extremely riddled with layers and layers of bureaucracy, as we all know. That doesn't go with my personality.
I understand.
It's why I take it to the municipality. I take that approach, and I felt really good about the reception, obviously, and the residual effects of it. Communication is key in anything, and beyond sending someone a regulation or no, I'm coming to see you. We're going to walk through this together, and we're going to have a better community because of it. Oftentimes, our distressed municipalities, and I'll just use those as an example, aren't distressed just because of financial issues. Sometimes capacity within leadership is an issue. So how do we strengthen that? What sort of things should be in place? Something as basic as Robert's rules of running a meeting oftentimes, because many times folks are elected because they were the lone man standing or lone woman.
There you go. Yeah.
And, we want to make sure they're successful because they have the right everything else in place for that. But talking with them makes that happen. Right. And that's outside of the norm of the usual bureaucrat, as well as...
You talking about really building relationships with people?
Really building relationships with people. And I have the support of the secretary and others within the administration. So that is the legacy I hope to leave when I do leave.
Great.
And there's so much more. I don't know that I'm thinking of any sort of elected positions again.
That was, where I was going with that towards the end.
I would just go ahead and clean that right now. But you shouldn't say never, right? I mean, there's so many, again, opportunities and so much need. We still see ourselves fighting against each other as I'll just say Black people. Yeah. And, we got to get past that. Yeah. We got to support the candidate who might not be everything we want. But we know at the end of the day, they're going to have our best interests at heart, and more so than probably the other one.
And if nothing else, we know one thing for the most part, and I'll overgeneralize on this, and I'll say it. One thing that I've learned as a candidate, as a public servant, one thing that I've learned and I know is that we know how to hold each other accountable, unlike any others. And I don't know if you want to speak to that, but I definitely know, and I was never elected, but I definitely know that we know how to hold one another accountable, if nothing else.
We know how to hold one another accountable. We know how to show up at that person's church and have conversation with them.
Right.
We know where they eat. We know how to really talk to people within our community. And there's nothing wrong with that.
Right.
There's nothing wrong with that because that's what we do.
Right.
But to side with others and then have to go back and apologize for that.
Leaves a pretty sour taste in the mouth.
It leaves a pretty sour taste in your mouth, that's for sure.
And I'll, and we'll kind of wind it down on that note.
Yes.
But before we leave, I just like, if there's a young person, male, female, whoever, out there looking, thinking about being involved, wondering how Mayor Bracey got to her position as mayor, and then wondering how she still keeps her head above water in the field of service, because that's truly indeed what you're doing. What do you say to that young woman, that young man, or that peer, for that matter, who is, struggling to work in today's America and thrive and persevere? What do you say to them?
Yeah, I've often gotten that question, particularly while I was mayor, and not just from our young people. And one of my mentors reminded me that what I was doing was a bit of a ministry. And as a woman of faith, I took that to heart, right? Because we all have whatever gifts that are given to us to affect change and to make a difference. I've always been a bit of a servant and, a servant leader, if you will. And I would encourage people, if this is the trajectory you want or something similar, get involved early. I was, I'm dating myself, but a candy striper. They don't call them that anymore. Volunteers at the hospital in those little pinstripe little uniforms.
I know.
Oh, yeah, right.
I read about it. No.
Always giving back, feeding the homeless or whatever. I mean, those were things I did.
Shout out to Mom.
Yeah, to the folks that, in my community. But there are planning commissions, there's zoning hearing boards, there's redevelopment authorities, there's school boards, there's committees after committees after committees.
And they are huge in terms
huge.
of when we see development going on in our communities, especially the economic development piece in our communities. The zoning committees and planning committees, or commissions,
commissions and zoning hearing boards.
Zoning hearing boards
all appointed by usually an elected position, a mayor or the council members, but they often need volunteers.
Right.
They need a database of people who are willing to get involved and roll up their sleeves. And if it's affecting change in your community, you should be about that. And so get involved. There's any number of ways to get involved. But if you should need some ideas, I'm open to talking to people at any level. They can give me a call, shout out, whatever.
All right. So again, we thank you for joining us on another episode of A Seat at the Table, hosted by yours truly, Karl Singleton, here at Music Man Multimedia Studios. Definitely sending shout outs to the Lewis brothers and Chad Scott for making all this happen behind the camera. We'll see you next time. Again, we thank you, Mayor Bracey, for joining us. We look forward to having you back. You're definitely, this is your first time in studio.
That's
it's
right.
Not your first time as a part of it.
Yeah.
We've been streaming you before, so the door is always open and you always have a seat at the table.
Like that. Thank you so much. It's been my honor and pleasure to be with you this afternoon.
Thank you. All right.